Hey, paranormal friends.
This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost. I'm your ghostesses. That's Corinne. I'm
Hi.
Sabrina. And we're feeling a little bit spooky today. A little spooky ooky, tingles in my toes. Time to read some ghost stories.
I dare you at the top of every single encounters now to just try to describe something similar to that. Let's just see what comes out of your mouth every time.
Challenge accepted.
We got tingles in your toes today.
Yes, today my toes are ticklish. Okay, this is a weird thing. This is so random. So in the last month, both my mother and sister, who are people I grew up with my whole life, have made comments about my toes being abnormally long and witch-like fingers, but on my toes.
Are they growing or are you just spending more time with them and so now they're realizing this about you?
It must be that, but they both have made comments about it. And they're like, your toes are so long.
The longer the toe, the easier it is to pick things up from the ground and not actually have to bend over. You can use them like little monkey toes.
I feel like the new Wicked Witch in the Woods is saying, come here, my pretty. But it's like her long toes reaching out to you.
We got a foot shot, everyone. It was clothed, but...
A clothed foot. But this is a Encounters episode where we read your encounters, your paranormal experiences back to you. So this is from our listener, Lindsay, who we read an email from Lindsay a while back about the haunted fire station that they worked at. But this is a new story. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
It's been a while, but I want to answer your alien call. I have an encounter that I've only ever told my husband, and now you two, with the rest of your spooky ghoul listeners. I feel like this is very appropriate.
Wearing the alien hat.
For a little background, when I was in elementary school, we stayed in a rental while our house was being built. My younger sister and I shared a room in the basement, while my younger brother stayed in a room upstairs across the hall from my parents. We had this awesome black Labrador retriever. He was the goodest boy ever.
Oh, sweet baby.
But he was also really anxious while staying at this house. Pets really do know what's up.
Yeah.
One night, my dad was working the night shift and my sister was feeling sick and stayed upstairs with my mom while I was left alone in the basement. I didn't like being alone because in our room, a little ghost girl would visit every night. She never said anything or did anything, but the sight of her scared us. However, this night, she didn't appear. I laid in my bed with my covers over my head because, of course, that was much safer for me, and I tried to fall asleep. When all of a sudden, instead of this little ghost girl appearing, there was a bright light in the room. I thought maybe it was my sister coming back down, and so I peered out from under the covers. But this was not just any light. It was very bright. Very, very bright. I went back under my covers and squeezed my stuffed bear. There was something in my room, and I knew for sure it was not my sister.
Oh my gosh. And probably not human.
I shut my eyes as tight as I could, and I mumbled to myself for whatever it was to go away. Things were eerily silent. I slowly opened my eyes, and when I looked up, I was absolutely terrified at what I saw. My covers, which I thought had been pulled over my head, now had a hole in it, but not like it was ripped open. It was as if there was a portal open over my bed. And in that portal were two gray figures. They had giant heads with two large black eyes, two tiny nostrils, and an even smaller mouth. They were gesturing to one another as if talking to each other. They then began to reach in towards me, their arms extending through the portal at me. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, so I began to scream. I screamed so loud that one of the figures reacted, and they both put their hands on the side of their heads, like this.
Oh.
I kept screaming for as long as I could, yelling for my mom to come downstairs. The figures closed their eyes and made a circling gesture with their long, skinny fingers. The portal closed, and the figures in the bright light disappeared. My mom burst through the door, frantically with my dog behind her, aggressively barking. She asked what had happened, but I couldn't explain it. I didn't know how to. I just sobbed, and she hugged me until eventually I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up and thoroughly examined my bed covers. There was no hole and no evidence of anybody being in the room besides myself or my mom. But my dog knew something had happened, and for the rest of our stay in the house, he stayed in my room every night by my bed.
Oh, sweet child, baby fur man.
I know for a fact it was not a dream. I don't want to know what those two beings were wanting to do with me that night, but I hope I never, ever encounter them again. The encounter didn't feel malicious, but it didn't feel good either. And I held onto that story for years, contemplating my own sanity. I swear to this day that some kind of supernatural attraction was in that house, maybe even a portal, because my sister and I both experienced a lot of ghostly encounters in the basement. And years later, my parents even admitted that the house was definitely off. So many things happened at this house, but to me, this extraterrestrial event was the scariest. But on a much lighter note, with the holidays coming up, my grandfather, my mom's dad, had passed away before my parents were married and long before my siblings and I were born. My mom used to say that when I was a toddler, she would catch me talking to his favorite hat. She thinks he was visiting me.
That is so sweet.
And Christmas was his birthday. And on that day, my mom would always make a dish that was his favorite to honor him. One year, long after our new house was built and we had been living there for some time, my family and I were in the dining room getting ready to sit down for Christmas dinner. My dad led a prayer and said, "Amen." And after that, I chimed in and said, "Happy birthday, Grandpa." And then my brother said, "And happy birthday, baby Jesus." And we all started quoting Talladega Nights movie scene where Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly are talking about their favorite types of Jesus. Just as we were laughing and beginning to eat, the light fixture in the other room began to flicker.
Whoa.
Note that this fixture was brand new and there's no reason for this to be happening. Also, right above that light was where my grandfather's hat was hanging. So my siblings and my dad and all of us just stopped and stared in awe. My mom, without skipping a beat, started eating and said, "Hi, Dad, I miss you too." The light turned off, then back on, and stopped flickering. The rest of us just stared at each other like, wait a second, did we just see that? Not knowing what to do next, we just sat there and my mom said, "Eat." And we all snapped out of it. After dinner, my dad and I tinkered with the light fixture to see if we can get it to do what it had done before, but we were unsuccessful, and it truly has not done it since. So we believe my grandfather just wanted to pay a visit. Thank you for your stories, and thank you for the entertainment. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Stay spooky, and see you on the other side. Lindsay.
I mean, what a beautiful encounter with their grandfather.
I know.
Especially because everyone was together and it did feel, as much as it can feel spooky in the moment because you're not really expecting it, or everyone's just like, did everyone just see that? Are we experiencing what we think we're experiencing? It was very reactive to what they were saying and the joy that they were experiencing and the love that they were sharing. And I love that the mom was just like, all right, guys, eat. Like, refocus.
Back to Christmas dinner.
Although, okay, so the alien portal opening up, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we've theorized that there is some sort of portal or ability for aliens to access your home and you and pull you out of it without actually cutting a hole in like your siding and your walls. But this does feel like the first time that someone has physically seen like the actual opening. You know, it's not just like a bright light and aliens coming in, but like seeing the hole.
Right. I am glad that nothing happened with the aliens.
Well, did nothing happen?
Did nothing happen? I do like, though, that the moment that she started screaming, they kind of went like, sorry.
Yeah, hands up. Ah, ah. No one told us that the humans will scream at you. It seems like it was their first abduction attempt.
They're newbies.
All right, I have a story from our listener, Carly.
I also just made my lighting so spooky.
Whoa, you did. What'd you do? Turn one of the lights off?
There's a lamp that you can like adjust where it's like pointing the light. Spooky.
It does look spooky. I like it. Hey there, spooky babes. I'm listening to episode 105 and Corinne is talking about how her mama saw a little ghost girl on the playground swings. I took this as a sign to send you the scariest paranormal story I've got so far, and it happened at a park.
Oh.
One summer, I was living in a small town in the Bay Area of California. I've always been a low-key witch and would do tarot readings on the semi-regular. On this particular night, it was a full moon. You can take a wild guess that I was itching to do a tarot reading.
Yes.
I thought it would be so aesthetic to do so while basking in the bright moonlight outside somewhere. One of my friends lived down the street from me, and directly in the middle of the route to get to her place from mine, there was a small park. So I thought, this place is the perfect place, since the vibes during the day were totally fine. The way it was laid out was that you had to walk down this long pathway to get to the park itself, and behind the actual playground, there was this empty field of dried up grass. I texted my friend to see if she wanted to go to the park with me and partake in said witchy shit. She said she was busy, and since I was so excited and so committed to the plan already, I decided, I'll just go on my own. What on earth could go wrong?
Well, yeah, what possibly could go wrong?
So I could have walked there, but I decided that I would drive. I pulled up, I parked my car in the street, and I hold my tarot deck to my chest to make my way down the path. The only light source was a couple of streetlights, which were now behind me, and I thought, perfect, the moonlight will be so pretty since there will be very little light pollution. All I could hear were the sprinklers going on their programmed nightly routine. I'm feeling content as the streetlights fade, and my eyes begin to adjust to the silhouette of the dark park against the blue lit field. All is well until it isn't.
Yay.
I'm about halfway down the path when suddenly the mood flips like a switch. An undeniable feeling of dread takes over as my feet involuntarily stop in their tracks. My focus is then pulled towards the swing set, and there, a little kid is all alone.
Nope.
Swinging unnaturally high and fast on the left swing.
Oh my God.
The other swing sits perfectly still. It takes me about 3 seconds to process what is happening, and that's when I notice that all of the hair on my body has stood up. I then internally hear a very stern voice say, "Leave now." So I turn the F around and I book it towards my car. My intuition was firm on the fact that whatever I had seen was not human. And if this had been a little kid, it looked only big enough to be about 3 or 4 years old. And why would they be alone at a park at 10 p.m.?
They wouldn't.
And how was it swinging like that? All of this rushed through my mind as I did not look back and I just focused on getting to my car. Once I left and I got home, I immediately called my mama. Any paranormal sensitivity I have, I definitely got from her. I usually hear and feel things, but this was the first time I had seen something that clearly. I frantically told her what had happened, and she helps me feel affirmed. I'm so lucky to have a mom that's into this stuff. To this day, that was the scariest paranormal thing that has ever happened to me. I'm very grateful that my spirit guides continually protect me when I put myself in these dummy situations like this one. Who knows what would have happened? What is up with parks, man? I have lots more stories on my own and from my mom, so stay tuned. Love your podcast. I tell all of my spooky friends about it. See you on the other side, Carly.
Pyramid scheme. Hell yeah.
Pyramid scheme.
Carly, there's so many things. Carly, you're very brave and I fully support this journey that you're on and this witchy enthusiasm that you have. I think it's so cool. But thank goodness you have something or someone looking out for you that is leave now.
Also, it's hilarious that Carly's like, yay, no light pollution, just darkness, where I feel like I would be like, oh my God, it's getting darker and darker and darker. This is bad. But Carly's like, the vibes are immaculate, moonlight only.
Which, to be fair, if you are trying to do a spooky ritual at night, then yeah, I get that. And also, to be fair to Carly didn't have any bad vibes until stepping into that park. So it was this Carly has good instincts and your gut is in check.
Yeah, and thank God. I mean, I truly believe Carly would have turned around when they did anyway, but to have that second thought or that second voice in your mind say, you gotta go. You gotta go right now.
To go.
Ugh, the creepiness is already there to just see a child alone on a swing when it's dusk or night and no other parents or kids around. But the fact that the swing next to the kid was so still, I'm picturing it as being pulled taut, where if a child was swinging that violently, you would think that the whole kind of metal of the swing rack, I guess, I don't know what it's called, the structure would be moving back and forth a little bit, and that other swing would 100%. Have some movement to it.
And I feel like that's just the to us, that is the almost last thing that you would need to rationalize to anyone else that you're telling this story to, because for us and for people who know paranormal and red flags of paranormal things, it's a child on a swing, even a child alone at a playground on a swing set, 10 p.m. or whatever time this is, already paranormal.
Absolutely.
The other elements are just even more backup.
Carly, thank goodness you got out of there.
But also, what other witchy stuff have you gotten yourself into, Carly? I want to know.
I know, me too. We're curious.
I have a listener story from Anna. It's called Maybe the Ghosts Thought I Was Cute. There's a cat outside. Baby. Well, that was enjoyable. I enjoyed seeing the cat. Okay. Maybe the ghosts thought I was cute. Hey, ladies and ghost, ? My name is Anna, she, her, /Scorpio. I love that so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Please say it on the pod if you read this, because I'll forget that I wrote in and I'll probably think it's a crazy coincidence that someone had a story just like mine and not realize it actually is my story.
We'll probably get to the end of this and they'll be like, that's so wild that there was another Anna that's also a Scorpio that also had the same experience.
Yeah. We'll email you back so you know as well. I have so many ghosty stories from the 3 haunted homes I lived in growing up. My grandparents' house where my aunt did Ouija in the 80s, my stepdad's house with a time loop phenomenon, and the house where this story comes from. The small town house where 2 cops sadly ended their own lives in the master bedroom. And my cop dad decided it's the perfect home. Facepalm.
Oh, okay.
My dad lives, in case you were worried. My mom, dad, and I moved into this house when I was about 2 years old, and it was this 2-floor house in a small village. There was a lot of negativity in this house and a lot of negative energy from the home from the previous owner's deaths and my parents' own tumultuous relationship. I, at that age, 2 years old, was blissfully ignorant. I'm always told that I was an imaginative and spunky child who thought she owned the world. My favorite TV show was Looney Tunes. Bugs Bunny was the funniest thing, and I often quote the show. My favorite episode was titled Ali Baba Bunny, and the bad guy tries to remember to say open sesame, but says things like sarsaparilla, Saskatchewan, and septuagenarian, saddle soap, and finally sesame, and the cave opens. So this is where the ghosts come in, and why I thought I had magical powers. My mom used to see creepy gremlin creatures, as she describes them, and she said that they would attack her and she would get scratches on her body, always in the pattern of 3 lines.
Oh, inside?
Yeah, inside, in the house. When this would happen, she said everyone else in the house would seem like they were in a trance. My dad and I would be in a deep sleep and she couldn't wake us up. Even our 5 dogs and 3 cats would be sleeping. The second the gremlins were gone, she could feel this dark veil lift from the house and some of the pets would start to stir. I always thought the house was the best place ever because we had a big playroom downstairs where I'd play with all of our dogs and I would take naps with them in a big dog pile. My favorite dog was a police dog dropout, Rookie, the German Shepherd. He would follow me wherever I went around the house. And he would even sometimes drag me by my shirt to his kennel if there was a storm to protect me.
Oh, that's so sweet. Great dogs in these stories.
I know. So my mom would often find me in rooms where she would shut the door to keep me out. So she assumed maybe Rookie had turned the handle because that's what he was trained to do in police school and drag me into these rooms. But then my dad took Rookie on some sort of Army Reserve trip thing that took a few weeks because he was a great guard dog. And my mom noticed that I was still getting shut into rooms while the dog was gone. So she decided to watch me more closely. And one day she couldn't believe what she saw. I wanted to go into the bathroom because I had left one of my dolls in the tub. So I stood in front of the closed door. I held both of my arms up with my palms facing the door and shouted, "Open sesame." And without me even touching the door, it popped open.
Oh my gosh. I would totally think that I was made of magic if that were me as a child. You'd be like, yeah, no shit, I'm powerful.
My mom said she sat there in disbelief for 20 minutes, completely frozen. She made sure that the door was latched when she'd leave that room after that. About a week later, she saw me approach the door giggling, and again, watched in horror. I held up my tiny little arms and yelled, "Open saddle soap." The door opened again, but I got mad and said, "No, that's not it." The door closed itself slightly, and I yelled,
What?
"Open sarsaparilla." Nothing. Then I yelled, "Open sesame," and the door swung open a good 10 inches. Needless to say, my mom bought a bunch of crosses after that and didn't like playing Open Sesame with me anymore.
This is like the best ghost babysitter. Why are you buying the crosses?
Know. To this day, I'll remind her of my magic powers and she tells me I'm not funny, but I think I'm hilarious. What do you think? Did the ghosts and or gremlins think I was adorable and liked playing along with me? I mean, I was pretty cute. And this is from Anna.
I mean, Anna, I don't know if it was a spirit or if it was these gremlins or what, but it definitely...
Or you? Are you a witch?
It does definitely seem like there's something going on where it's like you are... Well, I feel like it has to be a spirit because part of me, if it was Anna, then it wouldn't have opened on sassafras or whatever other word she had said.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like that house was haunted, so maybe these little like gremlin things are playing along with her. Because like when I hear gremlins, I'm thinking maybe something along the fae, leprechaun species of kinds, which can be known to be a little bit malicious, but also have a playful tendency, or like gnomes, those types of creatures, goblins.
Yeah, true. Have more patience for the kids, but it is so like, I don't know. What are they trying to get at with slowing down time and freezing everybody to scare the shit out of her mom and scratch her and stuff?
Maybe they want Anna.
It does sound pretty horrifying. Dang, Anna.
I am bummed that Anna doesn't remember because I would love to know what little Anna was seeing.
I'm so curious. Now I'm just thinking, what a magical home to grow up in for Anna.
Mm-hmm. I know.
But maybe that's part of the magic because you don't remember what happened. Okay, I have a story from Adrian. I just started listening to y'all and I'm hooked. I heard an advertisement for your podcast while listening to The Dating Detectives, and I'm so glad that I did.
Woohoo!
While listening to the beginning of your new episode, Encounters 217, It got me to think about the experience that I had with my granny that I will never forget. A little background. I lost my grandpa in 2005 to cancer.
Oh.
Him and my granny were married almost 52 years.
Wow.
Years after his passing, the best man from their wedding, named Bud, lost his wife, and so him and my granny continued their friendship and they took care of each other. In 2015, we moved my granny into a nursing home, and I would go and I would visit her every day after work. She had dementia and thankfully still remembered me, my son, my sister, my dad, which was her son, and my mom. She would tell me on occasion that she would have a visitor that day, but she couldn't remember who it was unless it was Bud. One day, she was telling me that Grandpa came to see her, and I said, "Oh, Bud was here?" thinking that she was just confused because by this time her words and her sentences were not always clear. She looked at me clear as day and said, "No, it was Lloyd, my grandpa." My heart skipped a beat, but then a peace washed over me. I knew he was there, and so I whispered, "Hi, Grandpa," like I've always done. I've had that same feeling before while driving, and then I would smell his scent. I drive his old truck that Granny passed on to me. I'm crying as I type this. Less than a week later, my granny was gone. There is no doubt in my mind that Grandpa came down to help bring his bride home with him. They both passed in July on different days, 10 years apart. Thank you for letting me share, Adrian.
Oh, Adrian, it is so sad, but like instantly when I heard that part where Lloyd came to visit, I had this like feeling of it was going to be her time, that he was back to be like, it's going to be okay. And we finally get to be reunited. And I'm going to help you.
Well, that's also when people start seeing their loved ones too, is like around that time where they start visiting and making them feel a little bit more prepared and comfortable with being in their presence again and getting ready to move over to the other side.
But I love that. It's so sad, but it is so sweet. And it's like, I don't know, it just gives me so much hope about as life comes to an end, you are greeted by so many people you love and you're not alone. Like, you might not physically be here in the way that we understand and know it. There is more. There's more on the other side.
Yeah.
And I believe that fully.
It's stories like this that make me, like, I don't think I'm afraid of death. The fear that I have surrounding dying is just, I'm not ready to, like, I'm not afraid to die because of all of these like wonderful stories that we hear of people getting to move on to the other side or getting to pick their next life and their next body. And I think that there's just so much warmth surrounding that topic, but I'm just like, I haven't lived I haven't seen all the things. I want to be around the people that I'm around for a while longer. I hope that when I'm older, much older, that I'll feel this sense of completion with my life when it's time for all of those loved ones to start coming and paying me a visit.
I mean, yes, ideally everyone lives to an old age. I don't really care when it happens.
Jesus Christ.
What? I mean it. Like, I'm living my life and it's fine, but like, it happens, it happens.
I can't die until my lemon tree gets really big and produces at least 400 lemons.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
Where is it at right now? How many lemons?
0.
Okay, there we go. You have so many years ahead of you.
It's too immature. I have at least like 1 or 2 more years until it flowers and has the ability to produce lemons.
So you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a spooky email from our listener, Eric, who we all know and love. And if you've ever joined Campfire Stories, Eric is often in the woods, somewhere strange. He was in a cemetery last time.
He was in the cemetery last time, yeah. We were catching him as he was going out to ghost hunt in the cemetery.
And he might be one of the most haunted friends in our phantom community.
Sure. I agree with that.
But we helped contribute to his most hauntedness.
Wow, I feel special.
You sent your demons after me. Hi, goddesses of the night. I see you two are enjoying your time together, and I've loved listening to this month's episodes. Oh, must have been when we were together a couple Octobers ago. The heartwarming episodes and stories are good, but I'm here for the meat and potatoes of the paranormal. The scarier, the better. Eric, I agree with you. So I was listening to the latest episode, The Nuns Are Possessed, and I believe Sabrina was telling the story of Nick being inadvertently affected via sleep paralysis. I was driving to work. It was 5:30 in the morning, barreling down the interstate at 75 miles per hour, give or take. And I noticed the lights on my car seemed a little dim. So I flipped the lights to high beams. And at the climax of Sabrina's story, every light and electrical component of my car went completely black.
Whoa!
Then The dash lights flashed. Every warning light flashed. My car was dying. I was now on the interstate in complete darkness and was just hoping another car didn't crash into me because I was now completely surrounded and shrouded by darkness.
Well, shit. That's so dangerous.
I managed to limp my car off the highway and across the road into a parking spot at a local truck stop. I slid perfectly into a parking space and my car died. It wouldn't even crank after that. Long story short, I had to replace my alternator in the parking lot before I could even make it to work. I can't say this was 100% paranormal, but I am telling you the timing was impeccable and felt like a really odd coincidence. And I've come face to face with a daemon before. I believe I've sent that email, but this felt like a full-on attack. Oh well,
Yeah.
on to the next. I will definitely keep listening. If you keep on scaring me, keep it spooky, ladies. Eric.
Eric. That's so something Eric would say. Just like, oh, well, on to the next. Like, let's see what the next paranormal experience will be.
Whoopsie.
Holy shit. I mean, that's super dangerous. And that is really scary
So
to have
dangerous.
a piece of machinery that heavy come and potentially affect your life and your ability to live because it's being manipulated. Everything is off.
Right.
You're flying down the highway.
Not cool.
Jesus Christ. Yes. I do feel a sense of responsibility here.
I do too, but it's also like we don't have control over it. And Eric wants it.
That's true. Oh my God.
Like this is almost as if like the amount of times that I've said I want to be abducted by aliens, if I were to like come on here and tell you this like crazy, scary alien encounter that I encountered and then be like, oh my God, it was so terrifying. But like I'd go again. Like,
right.
I hope you wouldn't feel sorry for me, even if I like explain the story in a scary way. Like you could be like, okay, yeah, that was scary, but you still want to experience it.
True.
And you've asked for it over and over and over again.
And we know that Eric actively goes ghost hunting all the time. Like he's a huge paranormal investigator. So,
Huge,
you know, you're welcome for making this one of the easiest experiences for you, Eric, because it came to you. You didn't have to go anywhere.
Exactly. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. We went from sorry to you're welcome very quickly. Okay. This is called Victorian Ghost Squatters, Epidermis Strollers, and my gut intuition to not date a future murderer.
Oh, shit.
What is up, my mystical mamas of the morbidly macabre?
I want that tattooed on my forehead.
I know, it's so good.
Mystical mama of the morbidly macabre.
My name is Lolo, and I have a few short tales to tickle your haunted imaginations.
Wait, tickle our toes. Didn't I say?
Tickle our toes.
We're getting tickled.
We're getting tickled. This is a
I
tickled
knew that there was a
themed
tickle
episode.
happening. I felt it.
Your mind reader.
I know when tickles will happen.
What? That's your superpower. I know when someone's going to mention tickling.
I sense that someone in this room will be tickled soon.
It took me a long time to actually write in because I didn't think that my experiences were eerie enough to be dictated by living legends such as yourselves. But fuck it. Whoa, that is a huge exaggeration of who we are.
You're giving us far too much credit. Literally.
Yeah.
But thank you.
You only live once, and some hockey player once said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take or whatever. Honestly, though, if you read this on the podcast, I just better have my brown pants on. So I guess I should start with my first unearthly experience.
Love this so much.
Back in 2008, I decided to rent a Victorian house with 3 of my good friends. We thought we'd hit the jackpot because we only had to pay $800 a month.
What?
But boy, were we wrong.
Where was this?
I know, yeah. The house was a duplex and the owner lived in the other half. I moved back to school 2 weeks before my roommates because I got a job at a local supermarket, so I would be in the house alone until the semester started. My room happened to be at the top of the stairs and didn't have a door. Don't ask because I have no idea why. My very first night there, I was having trouble sleeping, not because I was tired or anything, but because I kept hearing the owner's kids running up and down the stairs and giggling. I was like, who lets their kids stay up this damn late, even in the summer? It went on from 11 to 2-ish, and finally it just stopped. The next day, I was walking to my car to go to work, and I saw the owner, so I struck up a passive-aggressive convo with her. How are your kids this morning? I said, thinking she would be apologetic, but she just looked at me confused. I don't have kids, she said. Alrighty then, Ace Ventura for the cinematically uneducated. I went to work with the thought in the back of my head that I sold my friends on this great house that had ghost children squatting in it, at least in my staircase. That night it happened again, and since my room was at the top of the stairs without a door, as if the door can keep spirits out, facepalm.
But it could help, like, at least psychologically make you feel like you're safe from them.
Right. Feel like you're a little bit more protected.
Yeah.
I just laid there, eyes wide, and hoping not to actually see anything. Cut to a few days later, I come home from work and every light is on in this house. I thought maybe someone had been in there, so I called my friend and I went into the house. Hindsight, man, let me tell you. Thank you, murder podcasts. Anyway, I creep through the house and I can only make it from the mudroom to the kitchen before I get dive bombed by a large brown blur and I run out screaming at the top of my lungs. My neighbors, some dickish frat boys, heard the ruckus and they came out on their porch to investigate, but not to help. And I look in the window and I realize it was a bat. I forgot about my friend on the phone, and so I started talking to her again to calm her down since my scream probably had her thinking that I had just gotten axed. I told her about the sounds at night and the lights, and now there was the bat, and she said I needed to get the fuck out and find a new place. She then asked if I had anything in my car to help me get the bat out. Well, yep, I did have a tennis racket. I go back through the door with my phone in one hand, the tennis racket in another, and I get dive bombed again. I start swinging, but I end up like chopping through the air because I had the racket turned wrong. It dives towards me again, and I manage to get it out the door, so I slam the door closed, and the doorknob falls off.
What?
I can hear my neighbors laughing at me, and I realize I can't get out of the house to verbally massacre them for being big pussies. Not only can I not get out of the door, but none of the windows open. They are painted shut. So yeah, we canceled our lease agreement the very next day because fuck that.
Wait, how did they get out?
I don't know. Seems like a crazy fire hazard.
Yeah.
I now live in an 1800s farmhouse with a loft-style master bedroom, so no door again. I guess I didn't learn my lesson, but I have yet to experience anything more than the occasional light flicker.
Wait, so that whole time, did the other roommates ever move into the place, or were they alone?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my
Because they
gosh.
canceled the lease the next day, so I don't think.
That's wild.
Yeah, truly alone. So a few years later, in 2009, I joined the Navy and I went to Kessler Air Force Base for AGA school. While I was there, I had a quarterdeck watch with a Marine named Don Walker. On quarterdeck watch, you check IDs and you allow people in and out of the building. This one particular night, Don had the balls to ask me out at the beginning of our 4-hour duty watch shift. I politely told him that I didn't want to date anyone at the time because I was just trying to get good grades, so maybe I would have the best pick at a duty station. And he said, yeah, he understood and said that when I did decide to date, I better get a man that treats me well or he would kill them if they ever hurt me. I rolled my eyes and I brushed that comment off, as sometimes people say weird shit, you know? Well, I got stationed a few miles down the road from school and he ended up going to North Carolina. Facebook was our only means of communication and the convos were very few and far between. One night, I got a message from him and he was telling me about this girl he met who he was just so in love with.
Oh.
But there was a catch. She was estranged from her husband and involved in a nasty custody battle. I tried to talk him out of getting involved with a woman who was still married, and he said that he had a plan. That was the last time I heard from him. A few weeks later, right after Christmas, a friend of mine who was at Kessler with me and with Dawn asked if I had heard what happened.
Oh my gosh.
I asked what she meant, and she sent me a link to a news article. His mugshot came up with the title, Marine Confesses to Brutal Slaying of Christian Bergman. My jaw dropped. He had devised a plan to cut the power to his girlfriend's husband's house and hide in the basement. When the husband came home, he went into the basement to go check on the breakers, and he was attacked by Dawn. He was stabbed several times with a hunting knife by this guy, by Dawn, who asked me out a few months prior. I guess he wasn't kidding when he said if anyone hurt me, he would kill them. So, bullet dodged.
Oh my gosh.
My final experience was in 2022 when I was traveling across country for work. My ballsy, independent ass took a job in Las Vegas, and I had to drive from central Pennsylvania all the way to Vegas by myself. It took 4 long days to get there, and Vegas itself is just kind of a weird environment.
Yeah.
Nothing strange happened there, but something strange happened on my way back to Pennsylvania. I had decided to take a different route home, so that way I could stop and see the Grand Canyon. It was beautiful, and I couldn't stay long because it was October, and I got there too late, and it started to get dark. I had a few more hours to go until I hit New Mexico, which was where my hotel was booked. There was no moon, and driving through the tall cliff cutouts that were made for the highway to go through were pitch black except for the headlights of my car. So it was a pretty uneventful drive until I saw something. I was attempting to pass a semi when the highway made a sharp left. It was so sharp that my headlights were directly hitting the cutout cliff head on. It was in my headlights literally for a second, but I remember it clear as day. It was walking like a man, but with a limp, and was hunched over so far I could barely tell if it even had a head. It had broad shoulders and long-ass arms, but I don't remember actually seeing legs. It was tall, like 6'6" minimum.
What?
Initially, I thought, oh, that poor man broke down, and actually contemplated giving him a ride.
Yeah, because that's what he wants you to do.
I know. Younger me was stupid. Yes, I know that this was only 2 years ago, but I do consider that younger Lolo. Thank God I had a set check-in time at the hotel, or I might have legit stopped. Having a kind heart can really get you killed, folks. I got to my hotel and things just felt off. Thinking back to that thing trudging down the highway, I tried to recall if I remembered seeing any other cars on the side of the road or even any other houses for that matter, but nothing, absolutely nothing. Not a damn thing came to my mind for either of those questions. I closed both sets of curtains, I locked the deadbolt on the door, and I slept with the bathroom light on that night. The next day, I was on the good old Route 66 to get a picture of the Roadkill Cafe and stop for gas. The gas station store was like a trading post and had all sorts of trinkets and bumper stickers and dream catchers, so I grabbed a sticker and some snacks, and I went to the counter to pay. A young man behind the counter asked how my trip was going since he saw that my plates were from Pennsylvania. I took the opportunity to tell him about the weird thing that I saw the night before. When I had finished, he looked very distraught. And with a next to completely inaudible whisper, he said, "We don't talk about those here." Okay, bye. I paid and I grabbed my shit and I hightailed it out of there.
It was like an S-walker?
Oh, yeah, flush pedestrian. It kind of sounds like it is.
Ah.
When I got to my hotel that night, somewhere in Texas, my dumbass decided to Google what this possibly could be, what was so scary that it isn't talked about. Well, oops. Yeah, a bunch of creatures came up, including one that I am certain it was. A epidermis stroller. So yeah, flesh pedestrian. If you don't know what that is, we're not allowed to say the name out loud. So
Google it.
Google flesh pedestrian and it will come up. Don't worry, I would never make you guys say it out loud. Thank you. We won't. But I said it out loud. What? I did not know that that was a thing until it was too late. So for months after that, I ran from my house to my car and vice versa if it was dark out. I'm still scared one's going to come and get me. Well, how about that? It only took me 2 hours to write this. I hope you enjoyed the stupidity of my younger self and are as shocked as I am that I'm still alive. Nervous laugh emoji. To lighten the mood, I've attached pictures of my hairy children for your eyeballs to look upon. Oh, wait. I was so confused because I was like, the dog like literally looks like a bat, but there's
I was like, wait, is this a bat?
Yeah, there's a pic stitch. Like she stitched pictures together because Lolo wrote that their sister compares the dog to a flying fox. Okay. Wow. What a wild ride. Anyways, stay kooky, ladies. Love and weirdness, Lolo.
Okay, so it's not a bat?
No, the pink picture, that is a bat. But the bat is in a comparison to the dog on the left.
Gotcha. Okay, I see that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I know, me too. I was confused. I was like, that for sure I think is a bat.
That's what I was going to say too. It was like, someone's gaslighting you and telling you your bat is a dog.
It's like my great aunt and uncle who were like, oh, a husky was abandoned and they literally adopted a wolf.
Okay, well, I don't even know where to start. I'm so glad you got out of that house. It does feel like you get yourself into a lot of like solo situations that you then get yourself out of, which is great.
Yes, that's true.
Lolo. Also, it's so creepy to me that experience with the epidermis crawler happened on like the weirdest, sharpest curve of a highway.
I know.
At that specific corner. Like
it's like it was trying
to be there.
Right. Like it makes me think that it was trying to make Lolo go off the road and then feast upon Lolo.
And now you know to not talk about them.
No.
We didn't know for a long time that we weren't supposed to talk about them.
No, years of the podcast. And same with Windy Boys. We had a whole episode where I had to, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to do an episode on it. And in that learned like, oh my God, we were never supposed to say the name of this creature, which is not even a creature. It's a spirit. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn. So glad you were not eaten. So glad the ghost children did not permanently lock you in that house and then catch the house on fire, which you wouldn't have been able to escape.
And also so glad you didn't date Dawn.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I think I've said this, but the very first guy I ever, I was in 7th grade. I didn't brush my hair. Wasn't quite the catch. But this girl was like, I have a friend in 8th grade who is looking for a girl. I think his name was Ethan. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, he was scary as all hell. Literally like got arrested in the mall for having a knife out, like pulling a knife out in the mall. I looked him up recently. Not recently. I looked him up like a couple years ago when I was like reminded of this story. And like he has a long record. No murders. But he's got a record.
Oh, it's so sad when things like that happen. Just that people are so angry and that they never figure it out.
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
But you know what makes me happy? Your paranormal hauntings. You all being haunted. It really does tickle my toes. And next recording, maybe it will tickle my fleshy skin.
I was like, where's this going?
It will tickle my nipples. I don't know. Honestly, there's nothing worse than an itchy nipple. Like, have you ever gotten that? Like, ah!
Yes. It's the worst. Because then scratching your nipple kind of also feels like sticking your finger in your belly button.
Yes.
Like it just doesn't, I don't know what's up with the nerves there, but it just doesn't feel like everything else does.
Nice. Right.
No, it's weird.
Yeah.
Send us your weirdness at 2girls1ghostpodcast@gmail.com. You can rate and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And please join the pyramid scheme by telling 2 people about the podcast. And by doing that, we get more people in our community who love a good ghost story and the potential of more ghost stories being emailed to us so that you can hear them too.
This is my creepy join us.
Join us.
And rate and review us on iTunes. And if you want episodes 1 week early and ad-free, and if you want a bonus episode full length every single month, and to join us on Campfire Stories where you can come share your personal haunting live with us and other most haunted friends in our community, you can join us on Patreon for all of those bonuses. It's $5 a month and it's so much fun. Thank you so much to our editor, Jamie, who produces and edits our audio and video of everything that we put out there, all of the content we do. And thank you to all of you for listening and coming back each week.
We will see you on the other side.